everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got you guys a very, very big and detailed update on the tropics. So we got to watch one tropical wave I'm very, very concerned about that you've probably heard of right now. We have Invest 95L that is expected to become a major hurricane as it moves into areas near the Lesser Antilles. I think we're going to get a Category 2 Category 3 hurricane from the system. I don't want to go off talking a lot about this system, about how bad it can be. I want to stay pretty low on this just because it's pretty far out still. But I'm telling you, we will definitely get a hurricane. There's no doubt in my mind that we are not going to get that we are that we are going to get a hurricane. But I really do think that this could be a threat to not only these islands out here in the Lesser Antilles and then the Bahamas, but I think the United States could definitely be at risk for tropical landfall out there. But you can see that we do have post-tropical cyclone. Excuse me, Idalia. My nose is very itchy. Idalia will become a tropical storm once again as it moves away from Bermuda. It's got 60-mile-per-hour winds, so pretty much is a tropical storm right now. It's moving east at 8 miles per hour, so it's probably going to kind of tail off and then maybe impact areas near Newfoundland or Nova Scotia. Okay, it's got 997 millibar center of the storm. We can see tropical storm Gert, 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. Gert is back. It's like a rising from the dead. Gert is has actually made a comeback. We saw this was, and I don't even remember. This was earlier in August, I think. We had Gert form somewhere out here. Well, Gert is back. The remnants of Gert reorganized, and now we have another tropical storm here. Just a fish storm, not really going to do much. We're not going to talk about that. We do have newly formed Katia. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we have 50-mile-an-hour winds with Katia. It's a 1,000 millibar tropical storm. So it's a weak tropical storm, but I think it's going to strengthen. These waters out here, though, I think we're going to see some drier air out here, and I think we might see some cooler temperatures, sea surface temperatures, and we're also going to have some wind shear out here. So Katia is not really going to have a choice, but just move into this region, and then it's not going to do much. I don't think it's going to become a hurricane. I think it's just going to become a moderately strong tropical storm. Then it's just going to become a depression as it moves into this general area here. This is where my most concern is. Okay, we see Invest 95L coming off the coast of Africa as we speak. It's just south of the Capo Verde Islands. But you could see that, just based on looking at what the National Hurricane Center is saying, we have environmental conditions appear conducive for some gradual development of the system in the later parts of the week. Tropical depression is likely to form. So I think we're going to probably see a tropical system or tropical cyclone form right into here. And then I think we're going to see the storm keep moving a little bit farther north and then potentially get into this area, which we're going to have to talk about later. But I really do think that we're going to get a hurricane out of this. So I got a lot of information coming up in this update for you guys. So we look at the satellite loop of, I believe this is Katia. Yeah, this is tropical storm Katia, or actually no, this is Idalia. So we're looking at the remnants of Idalia. This is Bermuda right here. We are actually seeing Bermuda is under a tropical storm warning at the moment. Idalia is just moving out of the area, still cruising out there in the Atlantic. It's then going to move up north and then maybe impact areas of Newfoundland or Nova Scotia. We're going to talk about that later. But you can see it actually is still popping off some pretty intense convection just around the center of the storm. You can see these pinks and these whites here. These are very, very moist conditions in the lower levels of the atmosphere. This is what hurricanes and tropical systems love. So Idalia has actually got a lot of moisture to work with. It's just not very organized. That's the one thing that's holding this thing back from becoming a hurricane. There also is some wind shear that's bothering the system on, I think this is the southern side here. You can see these kind of the wispy clouds looking here. These are rain bands are getting sheared off from Idalia, so that's really bothering the system. Okay, we'll go over to the track of Idalia. You can see our current wind field estimate is tropical storm force winds right around this area here, Bermuda, right in the middle, under a tropical storm warning. We're forecasting a tropical storm all the way up until about 8 a.m. Wednesday, and then we get into Thursday, and then I think this would be around the Halifax area. I'm not sure. This would be some part of Newfoundland. We actually do see you guys in the cone of uncertainty for now. So the storm would likely hit as a tropical depression. I think you're probably going to see some gusty winds, maybe some flooding downpours, but in this general area here, you're going to get some at least light impacts from Idalia. But for the rest of this system, I think it's just going to be a fish storm. It's going to, just roam around over the North Atlantic before maybe impacting you guys up here. So we'll look at now Invest 95L. So this is the big story you've probably been hearing about in the past few days. So the reason why everyone is so nervous about the system coming up is because everyone's been, finally, they've been looking at the models, and you see, starting around a week ago, we saw the GFS starting to get the idea that this storm was going to intensify into a major hurricane, which the GFS kind of goes off about that a lot all the time. So I wasn't very concerned about this until we got a little bit closer to where we are now. We're starting to see all the models agreeing on some sort of hurricane forming in the central Atlantic. Okay, and some of you must be thinking like what I'm thinking, like this storm wasn't even off the coast of Africa, and we're thinking that like at this point, if people are saying that they're expecting a major hurricane, well, while the thing isn't even off the coast of Africa, this is ridiculous. But here we are now. It is off the coast of Africa, and we are still expecting a major hurricane out of the system. You can see, we'll look at the satellite imagery here. There is a lot of moisture out here. You can see, especially on the southern side. Look at all this convection. A lot of convection also ongoing up here on the central side of the storm. So, I mean, this doesn't look very concerning as for now, but I think ahead of it, we do have some very, very moist conditions. There is very little wind shear, and I just think that there's a lot of things with this to work with, so that the storm can eventually develop into a hurricane. But this is definitely expected to become a hurricane. And at the last second here, on the last time frame, right there, we start to see the southern end of the storm start trying to wrap around the northern side of the storm. That's where we can see that eye form. So I think we are very, very soon. We are going to get I would say later this week, around Wednesday, we're going to get a tropical storm out of this. I think once we go from there, I think we're just going to see a lot of rapid intensification to the point where we'll get a hurricane. But for now, we don't have much information on the storm. You can see we only have 5 members, or 4 members showing up here on the model intensity guidance chart here, but every single one of them taking it up to hurricane status. A few of them taking it up near Category 2 status. Okay, these numbers, I'm telling you, they are going to go up as we get more information and we go a little bit closer to that time frame where we expect the system to develop. So you got to keep an eye on, especially on this, because this, I mean, for now, this is just showing what signal we have for how strong the storm could be. This is not a forecast right here. This is just a possible chart showing the possible strength of the storm. But yeah, we really got to keep all eyes on this system. But once this thing really gets going and forms like a depression and then a tropical storm, that's when we really got to sorry for the background noises. That's when we really got to make sure that we're paying close attention to the system. So again, we'll look at just the rest of this forward panel here. There are some weird ways that the storm could go, but it's generally going to be moving, drifting towards the Lesser Antilles Islands. So we're going to be moving on to the GFS. We're going to be comparing model runs here. We're going to be looking at what each model run is saying for how strong the storm will get, maybe where it will go. But we really got to watch this closely. So starting off with the GFS, you can see that we've got a lot of activity going on. This is just our a big bunch of storms going on. This is Katia. But this is our wave right here, what we're gonna focus on. So keep watching that wave. And behind it, there's a signal for maybe another hurricane to form. We gotta watch both of these waves, okay? So here comes our first one. Still drifting towards the Lesser Antilles, and then here it finally gets low pressure signature here. Probably still gonna be around the 6th, so I think this would be sometime around Thursday. We have a tropical depression, and then we get pretty much to the next day. This would be Friday or Saturday. We've got a tropical swell and tropical storm. And then behind it, we do have another tropical storm forming, and then quickly both systems they quickly form and they run, and then they form a hurricane. Okay, this one right here, 972 millibars at this point. This is very. This is. I mean, this isn't that far out. I mean, this is Saturday or Sunday. This is pretty much a week from now. And we, so far, according to the 60 GFS, we have a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane behind Invest 95L, which at this point would also be a Category 1 hurricane, okay? So Invest 95L makes very, very close to the northern islands of the Lesser Antilles, and it does make some sort of landfall, gets pretty close to Puerto Rico, makes a landfall on the northern side as a 956 millibar Category 2, Category 3 hurricane. At the same time, we've got a monster 973 millibar Category 1, Category 2 hurricane out in the open Atlantic, okay? Now, this model run of the GFS shows one of the worst case scenarios possible, okay? There will be a trough that's going to swing down from the northeast that's going to try and pick up both of these systems out here, okay? If Invest 95L moves farther south, like here, and then it goes through the Lesser Antilles, and then goes through these islands out here and misses the trough, that's going to open up the gates for the storm to make landfall on the United States, okay? So it's all about the trough and where the storm goes. If it tracks farther north, okay, like up here, um, closer to where future Invest 96L will be, then the storm will get swept up by the trough, and the trough will take it out to sea. Okay, that would be the best case scenario if we just had the storm picked up by the trough. Okay, but you can see clearly that if it goes farther south, it's going to not only take a longer time to get to where the trough will swing down, but it will also probably miss the trough. So that would allow room for the storm to enter the United States. Okay, but I think that according to the latest GFS run, this is the 6Z. If we looked at the 12Z, which we can switch it to, you can see the 12Z has the storm a lot farther north. I mean, you can see this is it right here. It takes a little bit of a longer time to develop, but it's so much farther north that it might not even have to get swept up by that trough. It could just kind of move like this and then go out to sea. That's according to the latest GFS. So the models are all over the place with this system. They're still not kind of focusing on one particular track. Excuse me, but I think that we're at least going to see a possibility for the storm to get a little bit closer to the United States. It's really a matter of what lines up. But I'm just showing you the 60 because this would be what pretty much the worst case scenario would be. Okay, you've got a 956 millibar Category 3 major hurricane moving towards the Bahamas. It barely misses. I mean, I'm telling you, it barely misses the Bahamas. I mean, by like 50, 50 miles. 50 miles away from the Bahamas. Okay, it's a 951 monster. Okay, that is borderline Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane. Back up to a Category 3, but look at this. Oh no, it's getting very, very close to the United States. Look, I mean, it's probably about 100, 200 miles away from North Carolina. So very close to the Carolina coastline, okay? And then it also gets very close to Cape Cod. Look at this. I mean, this is 100 miles away from Cape Cod. So, I mean, there are the latest model runs off the GFS have been trying to decide if it's either going to go, I mean, literally out to sea, or if it's going to have almost a very very high chance of impacting the East Coast. We don't know that yet because it's too far out. That's what we're seeing here. Why when we see the models all over the place with these things, that just shows you that it's too far out to make any decisions. But I think soon, once we get closer to where the storm could develop a hurricane, we'll get some sort of a better idea of where exactly the storm's going to go. But the latest 60, this is a 60 GFS, shows the storm getting a little closer to the East Coast, but not quite making a landfall. Okay, it's still a 958 monster, maybe even making landfall in Newfoundland. So there's many areas that are at risk of getting hit. That's certainly a possibility. But this is extremely far out. September 18th. I mean, this is more than 2 weeks out. This is 384 hours out, and the storm hasn't even really declined yet. So it's very very far out. The storm, we still need to get to the part where the storm develops. Okay. One thing you could also look at here, the GFS, both the 60 and the 12s, they have been agreeing on a second hurricane, second storm forming behind it. So we could also definitely have to watch that system in case it moves in the same direction as future Hurricane Lee. I believe that's the next name on the list. But that is the 60 GFS. We go to the 12Z, okay? 12Z has both systems forming. But notice how, we'll go back to the beginning of the run. Okay, notice how the GFS has a storm, just it continues drifting. I mean, this is it right here. We're getting to the 8th. It's still not formed yet. At this point, the 60 GFS had the storm becoming a hurricane at this point, okay? Keep watching the system. It almost looks like nothing until here. Finally makes landfall in the Lesser Antilles a tropical storm. Okay, this is a low-end tropical storm. Still a tropical storm. It moves right through Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and it almost gets just destroyed by those islands. And then this is it right here. It's still doing its thing out there in near the Bahamas. It's raining in the Bahamas, and we don't even get a hurricane. So, I mean, the GFS 12Z is. I mean, this is very very crazy what we're seeing here. But the latest GFS 12Z has the storm becoming a tropical storm for just a very short amount of time, pretty much right into here, and then it's done after that. So this would be pretty much the best case scenario. Okay. That would be one of the best case scenarios. So far, the 12Z, which is the latest GFS model run, has been showing that, okay? But then it shows more activity behind the system, maybe 2 other hurricanes forming. We see this one, which is future Invest 96L, looking very, very intense, very, very early. And then it quickly forms, still has that same track that the 6Z wants it to have, and then gets moved, it gets kind of taken up by that trough. And then it also has tropical storm. I guess this would be tropical storm Katia or Katia. I'm not sure how you say it. Moving through the Central Atlantic and then becoming maybe another hurricane as it gets also pulled up by that trough. So the 12Z has some very crazy ideas for what could happen in the near future, but the 60 shows a more serious kind of situation here, including the worst case scenario. Okay, so that's the latest GFS. We look at the euro. This is the latest. This is. Look at the 60 euro. Actually, no. We'll look at the OZ euro because we need as much model run time as we can get. So put this at the beginning. Okay. Here is our bunch of storms out here, and then this is Invest 95L. Okay, we get to the 4th, the 5th. Okay, we get to the 5th. Now we've got a tropical depression on our hands. This would be for about, I think, Monday or Tuesday. I think this is Tuesday. We get to the 6th. This is probably around Wednesday. Okay, and then we're still at Friday. We still don't have anything. And then finally, we get to somewhere around the early weekend. We see a 999 millibar tropical storm taking that same trajectory as we saw the GFS 60 taking, although this is a little bit farther north, okay? So our trough at this point would be right here, okay? And our trough is going to be moving kind of like that and then like that, okay? And the trough would be bigger. So I really do think that, according, if this would be what the SEMA, if this was the picture that we would be at 2 a.m. the 9th, I think we would get a higher chance of the storm impacting the Carolina coastline or just the eastern coastline, but it could definitely still just go out to sea like that. It's certainly possible. It's very far out. 186 hours out. This is like a week out from now. Okay, and it does pretty much the exact same thing. Okay, it gets to a very strong point, and it makes a near landfall on the northern Lesser Antilles Islands. But it almost does the exact same thing that this area was showing. So it's been back and forth between the models. About where this thing could go. All we know though is that a hurricane is almost certain to form. Um, but all we can say is that there's pretty much a 50-50 chance that this is going to just go out to sea, bother some fish, or that this could make a landfall, a first landfall, initial landfall on maybe the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, or the Northern Lesser Antilles Islands, and then have a shot at getting through this tough area of the Southwest Atlantic, and then making it into the East Coast of the United States. Okay, that's pretty much the two tracks and possibilities that this storm could take. But we go to the Canadian model. Okay, the Canadian model is pretty much drunk for tropical systems. So this information is not all going to be true. I want you guys to know that. I want you guys to know we're not doing forecasts here. We're just comparing model guidance for a signal of what we could have in the far future. But we get the storm. Here it is, right here. We're getting into September 6th. This is around Thursday, Friday. Okay, this makes it to the Lesser Antilles. This is it right here. Okay, you start seeing some kind of circulation around the center of the storm. I don't know what this would be. We're at Saturday, so this would be, I guess, I don't know. This would be around the weekend. This would probably be around Sunday, and we finally get a hurricane emerging from its shell out here. This is a Category 1 hurricane at this point, 988 millibar Category 1 hurricane that's very rapidly intensifying. So we get to the 12th, and by the 12th, we have a hurricane approaching the Bahamas. Excuse me. This is certainly one of the worst case scenarios for sure, okay? Because the trough pretty much is right here, okay? So, well, actually, no, the trough. Okay, so this. I guess this isn't the worst case scenario, but the trough it's right here. Okay, clearly the storm is gonna miss the trough. It's been moving very very slowly. The trough is pretty much right in the position for the storm to get swept up, and the storm is not even close to there. So, if this were to happen, the storm would completely miss the trough. Okay, and then you don't really have much ridging and anywhere near this, so the storm has completely opened the gates for itself to move into the East Coast. And since it's strong at this point, it's probably going to be strong enough to kind of curve out. So it's moving north at this point. It's moving kind of like this, and then it starts curving out towards the East Coast. Okay, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. Okay, this is not 100% correct information. We're gonna have changes with this, but this could be a picture that a picture that looks alike to what we're gonna see when the event actually happens in real life. Okay, this is just a signal for what could happen in the future. Okay, we've run out of model run time left. But I mean, I'm telling you, the Canadian model is one of those models that is showing a possible worst case scenario. Okay, Now we look at the icon for the last model that we're going to be looking at, okay? What does the icon do? We put it out to as far as it can go. Okay, we have Invest 95L looking like it's pretty much set to get ready. It's probably a depression at this point. It's very close to becoming a tropical storm and then just kind of going off. But I mean, look, we're at the ninth. It's taking that same path that would lead it to the trough because the trough is at this point right here. Okay, the trough is right there. So it's going to be moving like this. Okay. If the storm were to be moving in this direction and taking that path, it'd move like this and then go out to sea. Okay, because the trough is here and the timing is lined up pretty good. Okay, and the storm's not too far south. Okay, it might have a small shot at getting a little closer to the United States, but I don't think if at this point that the storm would have a shot at getting closer to the United States. So I think based off the icon model, we don't have that bad of a scenario. So according to the GFS and the Canadian model, we have a bad situation on our hands. Okay, that's just what the latest GFS Canadian model is saying. Okay, the icon and the Euro have been somewhat agreeing on the storm getting a little bit farther away from the coastline. Okay, this is going to change. We're going to see changes in all of these model runs, but let me tell you that these are what the model runs are saying as for now. That's our current signal. Okay. Now we look at the this is the Euros. These are the European ensembles. Okay. We have probably around 50 members out in this region out here. A lot of them take this up to a very strong hurricane out here. You can see in these pinks, you can see 977, 947, 953. A lot of these pinks and these yellows and oranges. Those are hurricanes that are getting a little bit closer to Category 2, Category 3 status. Okay, some of these are taking a track a little bit farther south. You can see pretty much half of these members going a little bit farther south, and then another half of these members going a little bit farther north. Okay, we still haven't decided completely, somewhat on how far south and how far north the storm is going to go. Okay, for these members that go far south, I'll give you the rest of their projected path. It probably looks something like this. Okay, can we agree on that? That looks something like what these tracks would do. These northern tracks, probably like that. Okay, they're both. I'm assuming. I'm pretty much thinking that both of these tracks are all these tracks are certainly going to at least they're going to curve out like that. Okay, that's just something that strong hurricanes do. But it's really just a matter of the placement and the timing of the trough, the storms, and also how strong they get. If they're weak, then they'll probably just continue drifting off and being carried by those upper level winds. Okay, if they're strong, they can fight off those winds and move in their own direction. That's what strong systems do, kind of like that. Okay, and then obviously that trough plays a major role in just what's going on here. But our trough, it's going to be swinging down like that, and then it's going to take these systems out in a direction like this into the northern Atlantic. Okay, so this is a very very good site to look at if you're a tropical tracker out here. But I'm going to tell you, on this channel we are going to be frequently looking at this map here because there will be some changes with this, and we got to watch every single one of them. So we can also look at the GEFS for these for the tracks here. Okay, the GEFS shows a worst case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. Okay, I don't think that this is 100% going to happen, but according to the GEFS, we have a lot of these members being a very very strong hurricane, very very strong, plowing right through that same exact area I pointed out that we don't want the storms to go to, and the gates are wide open. If the storm gets to a point around here, the gates are wide open for anybody out here in the eastern U.S. to get hit by the hurricane because they're strong enough to the point where they can curve out and try and avoid land. But if they get to that point, it's pretty much too late for that because the trough is all the way over here, and maybe if these if these uh members take it a little bit farther out, then I mean, if we got to that point, then yeah, they'd still have a shot at going out to sea. But I mean, according to this model run, we have a stronger signal for the storm to impact the United States. Okay? I'm telling you guys once again, I want you guys to remember this. This is not a forecast. I'm not trying to scare you guys. Just showing you what signal we have, what some sort of signal we have, according to each model run of what could happen with the system. Okay? We'll look at the Euros. Okay? Actually, no. We'll go back. The Euro. That was. I don't know what happened there. We'll look at the GFS. And I don't know what's going on here. Okay. I think we'll just leave it at that for now. But again, really, you can see that the Euro ensembles have really been showing a bad scene for what's going to happen. And then the GEFS has been also showing a very bad scene. So for the last part of the update, we will move on to just the GFS for the air conditions out here. We got to look at where that moisture and where that dry air is going to be. So we'll put this to where our storm is. You can see that there is a big wave of moisture coming in from Africa. Look at all this moisture that the storm has to work with. Excuse me. Okay. The drier air is far enough in front of it that it's not gonna bother the system. Okay. So we keep watching the system. Here it is here, okay? Now it's starting to run into that drier air. That may stop it a little bit, okay? And you can see that does in some sort of way slow down the storm from going bonkers with the development, but it quickly kind of just it gets out of the way, okay? And then according to this model runs to the 60 GFS, the storm takes that path we don't want it to, okay? And you can see our trough is pretty much according to the GFS, the trough is going to be a little bit higher, farther north. Okay, so that's our trough right there. Okay, and it completely misses it by a long shot. Okay, maybe another one though. Look at this. Yep, we actually do get another one. This might actually be the one that saves us right here. Look at this. We get a very strong trough here. We get a lot of dry air associated with it. This is going to bring some cold air in too. Okay, and then you also do have very high pressure here, which would just signify some ridging. And you could see that it pulls the storm away from the U.S. So this could be our saver here. But it's going to move very fast. Okay, so that's another thing that tells you that the timing has to be lined up perfectly. Because this trough is going to swing by very fast, and you could see that the storm does miss it, slightly. Okay, this storm will definitely be affected. It'll definitely be felt by that trough, but it's just a matter of where it goes and the timing. Okay, that was the 60 GFS, but you can see that there's going to be a lot of moisture behind it, and some moisture in front of it, and then once it breaks through this area of dry Saharan dust, then it's finally going to be unleashed into this big area of a lot of moist air, and then this plume of dry air is actually going to be moving out of the way of the system. That's going to put in some more moist air in for the system, like you can see here. Look at all this moisture covering the Northeast. Okay, I mean, this is just a full out layout of one of the possible scenarios that we would have for not only future Hurricane Lee, but also this next possible hurricane. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. We gotta watch the system very closely. I'm telling you guys, if nobody pays attention to this out here on the East Coast, we could have trouble if this storm does take that path that we don't want it to. But we could get lucky here, okay? I'm not saying we're certainly going to have the storm impact the East Coast and move like that. I think we certainly have a chance for the storm to move farther north, and we'll get lucky and it'll get picked up by that trough. That's certainly possible. But I'm telling you, there is, as of right now, it's too far out to make any decisions on this, but we have pretty much a 50-50 chance of both scenarios happening here. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that, but also understand that this is a very dangerous situation and setup here, and things have to line up pretty perfectly for the best possible thing to happen. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch, and we'll see you guys in the next video.